Well, as you can see, we are working on festivals. Valerie Warrior spends a good amount of time talking about the kinds of festivals that were common in the Greek world. Festivals also a very important part of civic identity, whether they're religious celebration or patriotic celebration, they help to sort of define who we are in a given community. We'll talk a little bit about three of the festivals very common in Greece. Some you may have heard of, some not so much. The Thargelia seems to be a festival associated with agriculture. The Carneia, a festival associated with the Spartans that became very famous in the film The 300. And then the Olympics. Certainly the ancient Olympics, the inspiration for the modern day games. So we'll take a look at why we celebrate, why do the Greeks celebrate, how do they celebrate, and again, these are some of the things that Warrior is going through very basically with those primary sources that you have. What's going on, how are we doing it, and then what do these celebrations, what do these festivals tell us about the people who actually support them? So the Thargelia, very unusual word, but it's the Greek word for the month, a month named Thargelia, and in our calendar this is May, or portions of May. It's a festival in honor of two gods in the Greek tradition, Artemis and Apollo, who are brother and sister. Artemis, a goddess of the hunt, a goddess of war. She is the Greek version of the goddess Diana in Roman tradition. Apollo, common in both the Greek and the Roman pantheon, a god of war, but also a god of medicine, which is interesting. Athens, Massilia, and Leucas, and other city-states do indeed celebrate this. So this is one of those celebrations that's common to many cities. It's an agricultural festival aimed to thank the gods, but also to appease them. It seems that once upon a time, a pharmakos, which is an interesting word. Those of you who know a little bit of medical terminology know that this is the root for pharmacy. Pharmakon is the Greek word for drug. The original pharmakos, it's also a word for scapegoat, if you can imagine, stole some sacred cups of Apollo. Again, remembering that Apollo is a god of cures, a god of medicine and disease. This pharmakos may have been stealing some kind of drug, some kind of potion from Apollo. Here are some images of our gods and goddess. Here in the center you have of this vase, the one that's black and white, that is Artemis. You know her because of the deer next to her, and she's female. You have her brother Apollo there as well, and to the right you have Artemis with, again, a deer or a stag. Typically she is a goddess of the hunt. So on day one, according to Warrior, we sacrifice a sheep and a pig. There may also be an element of human sacrifice in this, so there will be a religious sacrifice. Some say, in the human sacrifice side, there is a single pharmakos. Some say two, one for the men and one for the women, so two pharmakoi. The two lucky winners are draped with a garland of figs. They're paraded around town, so a parade. They are then beaten about the genitalia, taken down to the shore to be stoned, burned, and their ashes spread around the fields as fertilizer. This is a very weird, at least in our estimation, understanding of a sacrifice. So we were also told that it's the ugliest old man, and he gets a great feast before these terrible things happen to him. Other versions just say that he's ritually driven out of town. So we're driving away the bad medicine. We're driving away the scapegoat. So very dramatic in one version, but perhaps maybe not so. Another version says that these folks are just sort of ritually driven out of town. On day two, we have musical competitions for choruses, both of boys and men. On the second day, we have processions of children. So this is, again, youthfulness, the new growth. Other versions, again, as we said, ritually remove the pharmakos from the city, but don't kill him. Some suggest this festival aims to thank and to appease the god. Thank them for their agricultural bounty, but also to ask for, very, very pleadingly, to safeguard the coming crop from drought. Let's see, so a cleansing ritual. getting rid of the old, getting rid of the scapegoat. The Carnea is another festival. This is in honor of Apollo again, celebrated for 9 days in August, moving into September. Primarily celebrated at Sparta, but we also have other Spartan-like cities, Dorian cities, it says, cities where the Spartan language or the Spartan dialect of Greek is spoken. Also, perhaps an agricultural festival, but for the Spartans, it's very important we know this, because if they were in the midst of war, if they were in the midst of any kind of international issue, everything would be halted and they would pay attention to this festival. Carnea may relate to the Greek for a ram. The festival may be celebrated to make amends for the descendants of Heracles who stole a ram from Apollo. The Spartans believe that they're connected to Hercules somehow, and that there is a story of someone stealing something from Apollo. Again, just as in the other ceremony, we stole something from Apollo. Again, the origins and aims are difficult, given that we have very few sources. And if you've seen the film The 300, there is something to do in this ceremony with the young men of Sparta doing some sort of survival mission. And that may relate to the following. 5 members of each tribe of the city, and most ancient cities have 3 tribes, so 3 kinship groups we've talked about before, 3 tribes. 5 members were to participate. One of the 5 from each tribe was to run as fast as he could. And again, this may be the inspiration for the film The 300. He runs as fast as he can. The remaining celebrants chase him. When the runners are caught, the event ends. So it's an athletic competition. There seems to be some musical competition as well. Perhaps the runner represents fertility. The other runners capture and thus keep fertility safe for the city. Some evidence supports that the participants camp outside the city for each night that the festival goes on, and it's connected to the phases of the moon, the phases of the new moon coming. So the Carnea, probably an agricultural festival. It comes in near the harvest time as opposed to spring when the Thargelia is, and may involve athletic competition, music competitions. Finally, we get to the Olympics, and you have a nice selection from Valerie Warrior there on Olympics. These celebrations, these games, are in honor of the god Zeus, and they're conducted exclusively at Olympia through a pan-Hellenic celebration, pan-Hellenic meaning all Greeks, first celebrated in 776 BC, and then every 4 years after. So 776 minus 4, 772, and so forth and so on. These would take place in September. Again, getting close to the end of the growing season, getting close to perhaps harvest time. This is an agonistic celebration. Agon just means competition. Honesty and fair play are expected. There are no monetary prizes. None at all. You compete instead for the honor. Right? There are 13 contests, 10 for men, 3 for youths or young men. No women, sorry. This is a temple, this is a rendering of the temple at Olympus. The story goes that the statue of Zeus was so large that he's some 42 feet high, and for the Greeks that's unusual. This drawing doesn't do justice to the actual site. It was said that his head, he was so large that his head practically touched the roof of the temple. You can go to Olympus today. You can still see remnants of that temple. This region is very earthquake prone, and as you can see, many of the columns have toppled. Greece is a very poor country today, so in order to restore some of these sites, they would have to divert money from other needed areas to restore such sites as Olympus. Warrior talks about how you have a procession from Elis to Olympia, one small town to another, that there are judges who are in this procession. There are 16 women who represent the elders of Elis. So it's very interesting. Women can't compete, but the elder women, it seems, and the judges who come from Elis process in a parade. The athletes join in the procession. Again, if you think about the modern day Olympics and our opening procession, not exactly the same, of course, but something very, very interesting to connect to that. There is a sacrifice of a pig. In Greek tradition, we do sacrifices of animals like a pig, and the smoke from the barbecue, if you will, the smells are supposed to be pleasing to the gods, but we, the ones making the sacrifice, we get to eat the barbecue. So it's not only a gift to the gods, but it's a gift to the people participating. We have a ritual cleansing of all of the processionals, the people in the procession, and the athletes by water. And then all of the athletes and the judges take an oath to perform honestly and fairly. Halfway through the festival, we have 100 oxen sacrificed. That's a big party. That's a big barbecue. Winners will offer individual sacrifices to Zeus in Thanksgiving, and these could be wine, grain, honey cakes. These were the typical sacrifices that individuals could make. Now, there's also a concern about cheating. Those found to have cheated at the Olympics, and evidently this was not uncommon, were fined, and a bronze statue of Zeus the Just was put up to commemorate their misdeeds. Pausanias, one of our sources on the Olympics, records many of the names of the cheaters. So there was like a cheater's row, if you will, as you entered the Olympic Stadium. Here it is. You have two images here. To your right, up high, you have the judges stand. This is from Olympus Today. This is the stadium. Looks rather simple. Yes, most people who were watching would be sitting just on the grass there. It is a little elevated, but that area where it looks like you have stones and such, that's where the judges would sit, that sort of grandstand area. To your left and lower, you have all of these pedestals where you see a person there walking towards those pedestals, walking into the stadium. All of those pedestals would have been put up to Zeus by the cheaters who got caught. So as you, a competitor, walk into the stadium, you will see all of these statues dedicated to Zeus by those who were caught cheating. So a very expensive thing to have to do if you're caught cheating. So the Olympics, a pan-Hellenic event, offered opportunities for politics. Yeah, we have seen this in some of your slides where you've seen people protesting, say at the Beijing Olympics, protesting at the London Olympics, right? So there were political opportunities because all Greeks come. Truces might be announced so that people could understand current events, proclamations, information, and maybe even diplomats came to the Olympics to negotiate, to talk to the various representatives of all the Greek city-states. So high politics could happen at these events. So finally, your assignment. Identify a festival that you have attended. Does it compare in any way to the Greek festivals of old? Was there a religious component? Was there a barbecue? Was there competition? Was there a procession? If so, how does your festival compare? If it doesn't really compare, how come? Did the festival reflect the identity of the community that supported it? Again, today, don't have to go too far, that Olympia as a city, absolutely we identify first and foremost with these games. So please post to your discussion board at Blackboard and comment on 2 of your colleagues' postings by the end of the week, please. So think about festivals. You're reading about them in Valerie Warrior. Think about them, think about the Olympics, and think about festivals in your own town, in your own city, or maybe one you've attended at a different city. Thanks.